Hello, Fae folks. So before we can actually get into the content of today's video, I do need to ask for your assistance with something. So there's a project that I'm working on that I'm so excited to be doing this. It is very much a labor of love. I've been like trying to gather some information for a little bit now, and I need your help. So I have already asked this question over on Instagram, but I have like a smaller following on Instagram, and I've also posted it on the YouTube community tab, but I am fully aware that YouTube does not push community posts the same way that it pushes videos. So I'm hoping that by putting my request in an actual video, I might be able to reach more of you guys and be able to get more of the information that I need. So I'm working on this project and I know this is going to sound probably a little bit weird without context. I don't want to tell y'all exactly what it is because I want to keep this as surprising as possible because I'm just so hype, and so I want to keep the suspense up, right? So please just understand that as weird as this might sound, I have my reasons and I have completely pure intentions. And like, obviously, you guys are going to see the video at some point, so you're going to understand what it is that I'm looking for. But I am looking for people who are from certain cultures to answer a doll related question for me. So the first two are probably long shots just because they are a little bit more specific, but it definitely can't hurt to ask, right? So if any of y'all are of Navajo descent, or if you're connected to, I hope I'm saying this correctly, I'm sorry if I'm not, the Ndebele people from Southern Africa, would love to hear from you. And then also anyone who is Cambodian, Japanese, or Hawaiian. So if you are any of those categories, if you're from any of those cultures, if you could either DM me on Instagram or email me. My Instagram handle is fairytaledolls, spelled exactly the same as the YouTube. And then my email, same thing, fairytaledolls@gmail.com. Again, spelled the same way that my YouTube channel is spelled. I would be forever, forever grateful if you could just reach out to me. Nothing that like we talk about has to be public. So like if that's what might dissuade some people, don't worry about it. It's okay. We can have everything be completely anonymous. I just have some questions that I would like to ask about some cultural dolls. So yeah, if you guys could please reach out to me. Let's say if you're seeing this video before May 7th, that would be a good time frame to like reach out. So yes, that's my little call to action, my little call for help, but I won't keep you any further. Let's go ahead and get into the actual video. Hey, Fae folk, welcome back. So for today's video, we're going to be discussing some underrated dolls. So this is technically like the third and like a little mini series that I've done. We've done videos like this where I asked you on the community tab and then also over on Instagram to tell me what dolls or lines or brands in general you think are overhyped and then overhated. Actually, I think it was the reverse order, but it doesn't matter. Those are the two videos that we've overdone. And today we're talking about the dolls that are underrated. We are rounding out the trio on hopefully a nice note, like giving some light to some dolls that perhaps don't usually get enough love. So yes, as with like the last two, I did ask you guys for submissions, and I'm just going to be kind of reacting to those and giving you my opinions. If I don't get to your submission, it's not anything personal. It's just I got a lot of comments and stuff, and I can't go through all of them because these videos do tend to already be long and like like they could be so much longer, and I don't want you guys to get bored. So nothing personal if I don't get to your comment. It's just didn't end up happening that way. And of course, all the things that I share are going to be my own opinions. It's totally fine if you guys disagree with what I have to say, just as long as you can be respectful about that in the comments down below. But yeah, regardless of the fact that like I'm probably gonna have to trim this down to make it a like manageable sized video, it is still going to be pretty long. So let's just go ahead and jump on into it. These are also not in any like particular order or anything like that. In the first video, the overhated video, I did try to organize it and like it worked, but also I don't really feel like it necessarily added that much. So we're just kind of scrolling through and going in random order. And we are starting off with one that is quite specific. That is Jane Boolittle from Gen 1 of Monster High. And I do sort of agree with this one, given the popularity of G1 Monster High specifically, and also just Monster High as a whole. I am like slightly hesitant to say any of them are underrated dolls, just because again, it's a very popular doll line. But amongst Gen 1 dolls, I do agree that Jane Boolittle doesn't really seem to be on like the most people's radar, and like I feel like not that many people talk super lovingly about her. I think she's a perfectly fine doll. I do remember when I was younger, I was really into her, and now I look back and I'm kind of like, she's not really for me anymore. Like I thought she was really interesting when I was younger. I never ended up getting her. Like I never owned her. Now I'm just like, she's fine. Like she is there. So I'm not personally someone who's like, I wish this doll had more love. Like I don't feel that strongly about her, but I do understand where this person is coming from. She's definitely not like one of the most popular G1 Monster High dolls. So Moment for Jane Doolittle. Next up, we had the Littlest Pet Shop Blythe dolls. So if you aren't aware, Blythe dolls do have like their own separate releases, like they are their own thing. But in one of the generations of Littlest Pet Shop, or maybe a couple of the generations of Littlest Pet Shop, they did like partner up, and so they made little Blythe dolls that came with the LPS pets. And like this one's hard for me. I am trying really hard not to be mean. I don't want to be mean in this video. I do think they could be called underrated in the sense that I don't feel like they have a super huge impact on the doll community at large. I feel like they're not like one of the top brands, you know, that like everyone knows and like so many people love. But I also don't love them. So it's hard for me to be like, yeah, they're totally underrated just because for me, they can stay there. I've never really liked Blythe dolls in general. Like something about the faces and the proportions, it just doesn't work for me personally. Obviously, no shade to this person who commented this or anyone else who might like these. But yeah, I've never really liked them, and I didn't like them anymore just because they started coming with the littlest pet shops. So for me, it's fine that they're underrated, but like I can definitely see where you would get that and like why you would call them that. Okay, I thought this was interesting. This was a submission on Instagram, and if you're familiar with like the question bubble, they do have like a limited character amount, I think, that you can reply. So I was slightly confused. I'm just going to read it out like exactly for you so you kind of understand where I'm coming from. This says Junior High Slumber Line and one release from Rainbow High, absolutely adorable, perfect carry doll, nice quality. I'm reading that as Junior High's first release, and like the from Rainbow High is just like the clarification. Feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. If you're the person who wrote this in, I am sorry. Like that's just how I'm interpreting it. But like I said, it's hard to get the words in when you have such a limited character amount. This one I would violently disagree. I don't know anything, to be fair, about the Junior High Slumber Party line. Like I never bought any of those dolls, so I can't speak to those. Perhaps those are a little bit underrated, especially since I know those are like post soft reboot. So a lot of people sort of gave up on Rainbow High. So it is entirely possible that they're like better than you might expect. But when it comes to the first release from Junior High, I'm so happy that if I'm reading this correctly, this person had a good experience with them. I thought those dolls were such like rough quality. The clothing itself wasn't bad, but like the dolls, I just remember having a really, really bad time. Like the Junior High Jade that I got was so thinly rooted, so bad. So like I personally would not call them underrated because I don't think they deserve that. But I don't know, maybe this person had like a really good experience and it's totally different. I know like back when those came out, a lot of people were having trouble with the quality. So yeah, I don't really agree with this one, but obviously it's like totally fine if you love those. I wouldn't call them underrated because I think they got the rating they deserve. You know what I mean. Next up, we have Bratz Babies, which I think is really, really interesting just because like it could very well just be the spaces that I'm in, but I feel like they already are pretty popular. Like I wouldn't necessarily call them underrated. They did clarify that most collectors are like fans of Bratz proper and not as much of Bratz Babies. So like maybe it's just in comparison, in which case I do understand what they mean. Like definitely compared to regular Bratz or even other Bratz spinoff lines. Like I feel like I probably hear more about Bratzillas nowadays than I hear about Bratz Babies. So amongst brats, perhaps the babies are a little bit underrated, but amongst the general like doll collecting community, I don't know, I feel like they get a lot of love. That being said, I am a recent Bratz Babies convert. I am obsessed with those little things now. Like I do love them so much. So even though I'm questioning whether I should really be calling them underrated, I will always believe that they deserve more love because they're so cute once you actually have them in hand. Like they're so good. This one's interesting because this is one that like I definitely think could be considered underrated, at least for me personally, because I never heard of it up until this was submitted. So these are the Mia and Me dolls by Mattel. They're a line of fairy dolls, and they do look pretty cute. Like I don't know literally anything about these. I will say from the images that I'm seeing, it does look like maybe the fabric is kind of rough. Like the clothing doesn't necessarily seem like the best quality ever. But I do think that the faces, some of them aren't as good as others, but some of them actually are pretty cute. And I love the wings. I think those are super duper fun. So yeah, I mean, I feel like inherently, at least to me, I have to say that these are underrated because I've literally never heard of them. But now I want to look into them more. I feel like these like kind of fun. Okay, this one is super interesting because I think it does tie into like a bit of a broader conversation. So these are strawberry shortcake dolls. This person who submitted this specifically was mentioning the ones from Bondi because like strawberry shortcake has had several different iterations. So that's what I will be putting on screen so that you can sort of know what we are talking about. This is so hard because like I hesitate to call them underrated because of the history of strawberry shortcake. Like in today's doll world, in today's doll community, I definitely think you can make the argument that they are currently underrated. Like they definitely don't seem like a super popular line of dolls. Even the newer ones, like obviously these are a little bit older, like even the newer ones, I feel like don't have the same impact. But I also know that in the past, strawberry shortcake was such a huge thing. Like I mean, even to have several different iterations, I think says something about the branding and like the media because in order to merit getting several different iterations and like basically reboots and stuff like that, you sort of have to be doing something right, right? Like obviously you might need to change with the times, but to continue being around instead of just fading out, you have to be somewhat relevant. So like it's hard for me because modern day, yeah, again, I can definitely see where these dolls would be like considered underrated because they're definitely not like top tier on most people's radar, right? But also they definitely have such a like historical impact within the doll world and like the toy world that it's also hard for me to be like, yes, they're totally underrated because like they obviously have had their time of being extremely popular. So I think that's the only way I can separate it. Like overall, not underrated, but like in today's world, underrated. This is another one that I think is really, really interesting. So this is the Disney fairy dolls from the Tinkerbell book series and movies from 2005 to 2015. And I don't know if this is again just like the particular corner of the internet that I end up occupying when it comes to dolls, but I feel like people love Tinkerbell and the fairies and everything around it. Like even outside of dolls, the number of times I have never seen or read any of the books or movies related to Tinkerbell. Okay. Like I'm not super knowledgeable about this, but I'll be scrolling TikTok, and even as someone who has no connection to them whatsoever, I'll see tons of videos about people talking about the lore of these different fairies and the stories and how the merch differs from like the books maybe and like how different characters are represented. And don't even get me started on Pixie Hollow. Again, I never played that game, but the number of videos and like things that I've seen about it, astronomical. So to me, I'm like, these dolls aren't being produced anymore, but I wouldn't call them underrated because I feel like I come across mentions of, again, them specifically, but also just Tinkerbell and her friends in general so often. So y'all will have to let me know if that's just my experience. Like, am I just in a weird Tinkerbell bubble, even though I don't know anything about them? Because for me, these are definitely not underrated. These seem like very, very beloved dolls. But y'all will have to weigh in and enhance my knowledge here. Y'all, this next one is honestly so near and dear to my heart, and that is Betty Spaghetti. Okay. I don't necessarily know that they would hold up super well in today's like doll collecting community, just because I do feel like, understandably so, there is a lot of focus on like hair and fashion and everything like that. And Betty Spaghetti was an all plastic doll line from the earlier 2000s. I adored them as a kid. So, like, I fully recognize that a lot of why I love them is just nostalgia. Like, I do understand that because, objectively speaking, like, all of the clothing is plastic. The hair is also plastic. It's like this weird, like almost wiry plastic material. So you can still do things with it. Like you can still braid it and have fun and stuff like that. But it isn't hair play in the sense that you would typically think about it. So again, I don't know if these would do well nowadays. But my God, I loved these when I was a kid. I thought it was super fun because you could pop off literally every element of their bodies, which, like, maybe that's kind of horrifying, but they're fun. Like you could pop off the head and then the torso is like the shirt, right? And then you could pop on new pants and you could pop out the arms. Like the arms realistically were just like straight noodles because the hands also popped off because they were oftentimes like gloves and like different colors and stuff. I loved them. I can't explain to you why I loved them so much. I know the texture of the hair was a big thing for me. Should not have been chewing on it, but chew on it I did. I remember vividly there was a Betty Spaghetti cat that like I high key really want to get again at some point because it's just one of those like monstrosities of a toy. If we're being 100% honest, it's a cat, but it also has the super long like stringy hair. It's a mess, but I love it. So like I feel kind of bad because I think my nostalgia is blinding me a little bit because I'm like, oh yeah, they're totally underrated. Realistically speaking, though, I mean, I just talked about strawberry shortcake and how they were an older brand who had their time. They're maybe underrated now, but they weren't underrated before. And like, I was like, oh, I don't know if I can call them. So is it really fair for me to call Betty Spaghetti underrated? I don't know. I would argue yes, just because they haven't had the lasting cultural impact of strawberry shortcake. But I also fully recognize that that could just be me really, really liking these dolls. So I might be biased, but I'm going to say yes to Betty Spaghetti being underrated, mostly just because I like them. Okay, this one I got a couple of times, and that is the Witch dolls, which is from media. Okay, like there was, I believe, a show and then comics for Witch. It's like WITCH, so I think it's technically an abbreviation. I know literally nothing about this. I don't know. Okay, like are these dolls underrated in the sense that I feel like they aren't on tons of people's radars? Yes. However, no shade to anyone who likes these. I think they're quite ugly. So I am perfectly happy for them to stay underrated. That's so mean. There's no way to get around that. I just don't think that like they're not really my taste. I think they look a little bit goofy at best and like actively ugly at worst. So I don't know, because when I think of underrated, I think like something that doesn't get attention but deserves attention. So that's why I'm like, ooh, I don't know if I would call them underrated because I wouldn't say they deserve attention. But also, I'm just one human being. So what do I know? Definitely underrated in the sense of like if you're just going based off of popularity, then they're underrated. Then we have another brand that I also had as a response several times over, and that is Novi Stars. And I do have to say, I definitely disagree on them being underrated. Maybe when they first came out, just because I do feel like nowadays I hear so many people be like, oh, I wish I got more Novi Stars when they were on shelves. Like, I definitely think their popularity has increased since they were first released. So maybe back then you could have called them underrated, but today, definitely not. I'm so sorry. Just like, I love them too. Okay. I'm not shitting on Novi Stars. Like, I'm not trying to be like, ugh. Like, it's not that vibe. I think they are really beautiful, like, interesting dolls. But I feel like you can't pretend that people don't love these. Like so many people talk about these dolls and want these dolls. The number of times that I see people clamoring for them to come back and be either reproduced or have like another iteration and like have new dolls be coming out. The price on the secondhand market, because apparently so many people want these dolls. Like, again, I'm not trying to shit on them, but I definitely don't think we can call them underrated. They are very, very much beloved in the current era. Then we had Hello Kitty and Friends dolls by Mattel that are simple yet sweet but weirdly overlooked. I do think that like if you're going purely based on aesthetic, these dolls are really cute, but also I feel like they look kind of cheap, and I think that's maybe why they didn't do super duper well, despite the fact that Hello Kitty is inarguably a wildly popular franchise. Like I just don't think I never got any of them, so I can't speak literally to like the feelings and everything, but they do look a little bit cheap, a little bit more on the budget end of things. So I think that perhaps that's why people weren't super into them, because some doll collectors are not going to want them because maybe they lack articulation or like the materials, that sort of thing. And then when it comes to like Hello Kitty or like broadly Sanrio collectors, I feel like the same thing could be said. Like you could definitely spend that money on a better piece of Hello Kitty merchandise if you aren't looking for a doll specifically. So I just feel like generally, again, the designs are very cute, but I think they probably didn't do as well because of the quality that they seem to offer. I would still say I do sort of agree with them being underrated because they are really, really cute. And like, I also like some doll lines like the Magic Mixies Pixlings that aren't necessarily the highest quality ever. So you definitely can have a good doll, even if it's not like top tier, like collector level quality. So yeah, I'm gonna say these are a teensy bit underrated. Alrighty, next up we have Fail Fix dolls. This person wrote inset eyes, nylon hair, fully articulated, included stands. These were awesome. And I do sort of agree. I have never owned any of the Fail Fix dolls, so I can't speak to like the quality personally, but I have heard good things from other people who have owned Fail Fix dolls. I think two things contributed to this brand not lasting as long as perhaps it could have. One, I think the packaging and the gimmick is like fun, because the whole gimmick with these, if you guys don't remember them being on shelves or like if you haven't heard of them before, was it's kind of in the name, it's Fail Fix. So when you get the doll, they have like a mask on that has like smeared makeup or something like that. Their hair is like intentionally gelled into quote unquote like tangles. It's not like literally tangles because then it would be a lot harder to brush out. But it's supposed to like look super messy, like it needs to be fixed. They're not wearing like their full outfit. They have like a robe or something on like that. So the whole idea is that you get them and you brush the gel out of their hair to reveal the proper hairstyle, and you like fix their face up and put them in the right outfit. And it's not even that I think the gimmick is bad, but I think because the gimmick inherently means that when you buy them, you have to see the doll in its worst state, makes it hard to like advertise, right? Makes it hard to have someone just casually going through the shelves be like, oh, that's a pretty doll, I want to buy them. Because the whole point is that they don't look pretty right away. So it's not even that I think it's a bad gimmick. I just think it's one of those things that makes it very, very, very hard to package and to market. And then the second problem that Failtix had is I want to say it was some of the art on one of the dresses from one of the early dolls was found out to be, I think it was that it was stolen art, not AI art. Like, I think it was just they had used someone's art without permission, which obviously not okay at all. Like, that's really not good. So that obviously caused a bit of an uproar, which again, it should, like, that is not okay to do. But I do think that that kind of meant that the line didn't have a lot of, I guess, good press would be a good word going forward, regardless of how nice the dolls actually looked underneath. It's hard to overcome something like that, where when people hear the name of your brand, they automatically associate it with the art theft, even if they correct that behavior in the future. Like, that's just really, really hard to recover from, especially when it was either the first line or like a very early line, because they only had a couple, like they didn't come out with many. So especially when it's that early on, it's not like you have history of good releases and then there was like this one fumble and you can kind of recover. It's like, hey, here's the introduction. Oh shit, there's some art theft involved. It's really, really hard to come back from that. So those are the reasons I think they didn't do as well as they could have. That being said, all of that rambling aside, I do think they are a bit underrated. I think that because they didn't have that many releases, people might not know about them. People might not have even seen pictures of what the dolls are supposed to look like once you fix them, if they've just like seen the boxes on the shelves when they were there. I definitely think that these are cute dolls. And like this person mentioned, like they had inset eyes and they were articulated, that sort of thing. That's all really awesome. They just didn't get to sort of live up to the potential that they had. So yeah, I would definitely agree. These had potential, and so therefore I do think they were underrated. This next one I 100% agree with, and that is Naturalistas. This person wrote, they are, in my opinion, the best budget dolls on the market. Not only do they have gorgeous faces with no pixelations that are rarely wonky, they have unique body molds with more realistic full figures, different skin tones, the hair quality is amazing and genuinely does feel like textured hair, and the fact that they even have different hair textures depending on the character. Their clothes, while simple, are incredible quality, made with high quality fabrics, and that's without touching on what it actually means to be a doll line genuinely focused on putting diversity on shelves. Like, what else do I even need to say? That's 100% correct. And that could also definitely go for the, like, I don't know if it's technically a sister brand or like a second branch, but the Naturalistas are primarily like supposed to be Black representation. And then they have the Latinistas, which are supposed to be Hispanic representation. And I think both of these lines are genuinely so good, so wonderful. They do have very limited articulation, which is honestly the reason that I don't have any in my collection currently, because like, I would want to rebody them and put them on a different body. And every time I'm like, okay, yeah, I think I've got some extra budget, I can go ahead and buy one and like buy a body for them. Something else comes out and I'm like, oh shit, like I need to grab that. So I haven't gotten any of these, but I have thought about it like so many times, and I really, really need to just bite the bullet and do it, because they are really, really lovely dolls. If you take away like the limited articulation, which I totally get, I'm a big articulation person, I understand if that's preventing people from buying them, but they are so lovely. The faces are so pretty. The hair, as this person mentioned, are wonderful. I'm glad they talked about the quality of the clothes, because as someone who hasn't had them, I kind of can't talk about that, but I will say that they look really, really cute. And I just think that they are genuinely such lovely dolls, such fun dolls. And it's so nice to see them be on the shelves. As this person said, a doll line that is focused so hard on putting diversity onto the shelves. They absolutely deserve so much credit and so much praise for the things that they're doing and like for the designs that they put out. And like, yes, again, the articulation is limited, but also they do tend to be more on like the budget side of things. Like, they're not particularly expensive dolls. So I can definitely understand where that comes in. So much praise for the Naturalistas and the Latinistas. Like, they definitely deserve a little bit more hype. Then we have Style Bays. This person wrote, they were gone too soon. It's a really cool take on the paper doll, flat dolls with 3D elements. I do kind of agree. Like, these aren't dolls that I ever bought or ever even considered buying just because it's not for me. Like, I'm not the target demographic. It's not something that I'm particularly interested in. But the whole thing was that they had like a 3D, like normal doll head with like actual hair. And then the body was flat and they came with a bunch of stickers of different outfits that you could put on. So, like this person said, it's sort of combining the elements of like hair play on a traditional doll with the outfit change elements specifically of a paper doll. And it's really, really unique and interesting. And like, it's sad because I think that that's probably what killed them. And as much as I can say I do feel like they are a bit underrated, I can also understand why they didn't last, just because I do think that is such a specific target audience. Like, the overlap between people who are wanting paper dolls and then people who are wanting actual dolls, and then like who like the specific combination of style bays, I just feel like the people who would be interested in them is like a much smaller demographic of people. So I understand why they didn't do well enough to continue on, but I also do think they're underrated just for the fact that it's definitely an innovative idea. Like, again, I understand why to me they weren't that popular and they didn't obviously do that well, like not well enough to continue on. But I gotta give the team to who made them props for just doing something so different, like something that is completely other than anything else that's on the shelf. So I'm kind of like back and forth on these, or I'm kind of like in two minds about them. I didn't adore them, but I do think in a sense they're underrated purely for the fact that they were so unique. Okay, this next one, I've heard this pronounced a couple of different ways, so please let me know what is like the more accurate pronunciation down below, and also sorry if I butcher it anyway, but either Rikachan or Likachan dolls. This one I definitely disagree with. I know they are like more popular over in Japan, but like when it comes to non-Western dolls, like dolls that aren't primarily coming out of like America, I feel like those are some of the most popular dolls, like the ones that I hear about the most, just generally speaking, like outside of like BJDs and stuff, because that's sort of its own separate situation, right? Like Likachans are a playline doll. They have collector dolls too, but they have playline dolls. And I feel like within the US, when it comes to non-Western dolls, those are like some of the most common dolls I hear people talking about. Like I hear that so often. So like, not to say that they're bad or that they don't deserve that, but I definitely wouldn't call them underrated because I feel like these are extremely popular. And that's just from my perspective as someone in the US. Like I said, I know they are very, very popular in Japan. I'm sure they're popular in other overseas countries. So, like, yeah, I can't call these underrated. Next up is Wild Heart's Crew. And I agree with this one. They came out like sort of in like the doll drought era when there was a lot less choices for fashion dolls out on the market. Like I think they were post Monster High. If not, it was like a little bit of overlap, like right towards the end of G2. So, like, they came out when there wasn't a lot else going on, which makes it even more interesting to me that they don't seem to have really retained popularity and like they aren't being made anymore. Just because that is like the prime time for dolls to come out in a sense, because there's not a lot of other choices. So people are sort of like clamoring for something else, right? But yeah, these just like didn't get that level of popularity, and I think that they're perfectly fine. I've never owned one of these dolls. I probably wouldn't go out of my way to get one, but like they do look perfectly cute, like perfectly fine. So I'd be very curious to know if you guys have any like theories or any insider knowledge about why these dolls didn't do that well. I would love to hear it because like with Failfix, I'm like, oh yeah, here's probably the reason they didn't do that well. I don't know what would have killed these dolls off because they're really not bad dolls at all. So yeah, I would agree, underrated. Moxie Teens is hard because it's another one of those where I agree in the sense that I feel like I don't hear people really talking about them that much, but I dislike them. I think they're creepy, so I'm perfectly happy with them being underrated. That sounds so mean to say. Like, I know I've said it a few times in this video, but I feel like an ass every time. I'm not a huge fan of them. They do have inset eyes, which is nice quality wise, but like, I don't know, something about those specific inset eyes are just like a teensy bit creepy to me. They also do have a wig gimmick, which this person did point out might not be for everyone. And like, There is that. I feel like wigs are very, very hard to get right on dolls, so the combo is probably not great. So, yeah, I'm happy with them being underrated because I'm not a fan. But like, I definitely think these are less popular dolls, so you could absolutely call them underrated in that sense. Alrighty, then we have a Once Upon a Zombie, which I'm gonna hand over to you guys because I am in no way qualified to talk about these. I don't like them, but it's not like an aesthetic thing. Like I feel comfortable being like, oh yeah, Moxie teens. I don't really think they're underrated because I don't think they're that cute. Once Upon a Zombie, I don't like, but it's because I have like an intense fear of zombies, even cutesy ones. It doesn't matter. I can't do it. Like the concept of a zombie makes me feel like I'm gonna throw up. So I don't like feel as confident just being like, oh yeah, no, these deserve to be underrated. I will say I think that you could call them underrated in the sense that they're definitely like a lot of lines we're talking about because of the theme of today's video. Not one of like the most popular lines out there that like collectors just go like crazy for. But you guys will have to weigh in because like I said, I'm so far removed from the target demographic, I can't even weigh in on this one. And then we have a Pinky Cooper, for which I would say pretty much the exact same thing that I said about Novi Stars. I think when those dolls first came out, they definitely did not have like an intense level of popularity. I don't think they lasted that long, so presumably the sales were not hitting what needed to be hit. But now I hear about those doll girls all the time. Like, I feel like so many people love those dolls now. They are rather expensive secondhand to try to buy. Like, they definitely feel like they have a lot of popularity nowadays. So, again, literally the exact same story as Novi Stars, where perhaps when they came out, they were underrated. I shouldn't even say perhaps, but they were definitely underrated when they came out. But nowadays, I cannot say that. Like, they are so popular. This person said Cave Club and added the small, fully articulated bodies, the hobbit feet, the theme. They are so cute. And I do honestly agree. I never ended up getting a Cave Club doll. I kept telling myself I was going to, and then I didn't. And now they're not available on store shelves. So like I just never ended up getting these. But like I do think they are quite cute. I do think that they're pretty fun. Honestly, my guess as for why they didn't do like as well or didn't last as long. First of all, maybe the timing wasn't super great. I know they came out before like Rainbow High, but then Rainbow High came out and I feel like that kind of shifted some things within the doll collecting market and like what's on shelves. So I think that probably didn't help. But also, as much as I do think that the theme is like fun and very different to other things that we've seen in dolls, I also feel like it might be a little bit limiting. You know, like there's really only so much that you can realistically do with a caveman themed doll of line. I don't know what just happened. I almost said doll of lines and then stopped myself and then nothing else would come. Anyway, though, I'm just saying, like, I do think while the theme is really interesting, I don't necessarily know that it lends itself to a super long lasting doll line. So, like, I kind of get why they aren't around anymore. But I do think that for what they were really, really cute and honestly quite well done for the themes. So, I completely agree these are a bit underrated. This one I find very interesting. So this person said Bratz Kids. The earlier lines feel like they are nearly at the same level as LOL Tweens, but never got the same recognition. And I absolutely see what they're saying. Like, I have not delved into the kids because honestly, it's just because I don't want to like them. Like I've seen a few images and been like, "Ooh, those are kind of cute." But unlike Bratz Babies, where we're getting like reproductions and releases now that I can buy for retail, that is not the case with Bratz Kids. And I don't need any more dolls that I want to buy secondhand, especially given that I don't think that they are quite as expensive secondhand as regular Brats, but generally speaking, Brats is just honestly a horrible line to have to buy from secondhand. Like the prices are so, so bad. So that's the literal only reason I have not let myself get into Bratz Kids because other than that, I do think they're really cute. And this person is absolutely right. They fill the same sort of niche as the LOL Tweens. Obviously, they were prior to the LOL Tweens. But like it's that same sort of in between. I think that's such a good scale for dolls. Like it's just such a nice hand holding scale, right? Like if you're someone who likes to travel with your dolls or just like kind of keep them with you around the house, I feel like that's such a good scale because it's small enough to be like really cute and like you get a little bit of that cuteness aggression, but it's big enough to like have in your hand and like not have your hand like just completely envelop it. I really think these are good. I would definitely agree that they're underrated. I am scared to look at pictures to put in this video because I don't want to like that. But also, I sort of already know that somewhere in my little noggin I like them. There's a price barrier there. So yeah, weird that they don't have the same fanfare around them, and definitely I would say underrated, at least amongst brats. Again, we kind of touched on it earlier. As much as any brats can be underrated, I would say brats kids count. Okay, this one, very, very interesting. This is Star Darlings, which is a line that almost drew me back into collecting. I talk about this pretty frequently, but just like in case you haven't seen a video where I have talked about it, I collected G1 Monster High when they were coming out. That was like my thing when I was a teenager slash first years of adulthood. Is I loved G1 Monster High, and I was kind of a little ass, so I wouldn't let myself like anything else. But then of course Monster High turned to G2 and started getting more and more and more budget, so I stopped collecting. And then I didn't collect for several years until Rainbow High came out, and that got me back into collecting. But in the interim, I did see Star Darlings dolls. I used to work, my first job that I had was at Justice, which I don't think they're in business anymore, but it was originally limited to, and then they changed the name to Justice, and it was like a little girl's clothing store that was for like teenagers, right? Like that was sort of the demographic. Was they had some stuff for younger kids too, but youngish kids to teenagers was sort of the area that that's not the right way to put that. The demographic that they wanted to cater to. And when I worked there, I remember that we got in some Star Darlings dolls. We, on occasion, would get toys in, and I almost caved. Like, I really was like, these are kind of fun. These are kind of interesting. But I was still enough, like, I was still young enough and still asshole-ish enough to where I was just like, no, everything but Monster High is trash. And I do feel like I need to clarify really quick. It's fine if you only collect one line of dolls. Like, I'm in no way passing judgment on anyone else who might do that. I'm calling myself an asshole because it was specifically, I only collect G1 dolls, only collect Monster High dolls because everything else is trash and it's too girly pop and which hilarious for someone working at Justice. I can't explain myself. Okay. I was really weird when I was younger. So yeah, just wanted to clarify that. I'm not in any way judging anyone else who might only collect one brand. I'm judging myself because my reasoning was lame. But yeah, Star Darlings almost had me break, almost got me back into dolls, and low key, I wish I had caved because they're really kind of fun. Like, I just think they're very interesting dolls. They are, as the name implies, sort of like celestial themed dolls. I remember specifically, it'll be the one that I'm using as the image for this video. There's one that's like all gold, and she's so pretty. I might have to see if I can get some of these secondhand. Because yeah, I do think they were just really, really interesting, really, really cool dolls. And again, they came out sort of in that like era where fewer fashion dolls were on shelves. So this is another one that I don't know what was wrong. I don't know what made them not last. They didn't last. But I 100% agree. I feel like these are underrated. They're pretty cool. I was a little surprised by how often Mycene got brought up. One person in particular did say that they really don't like that Mycene is forever going to like be remembered as sort of a Bratz knockoff because they were created to compete with Bratz. So like I can understand that in terms of like maybe the way that we speak about Mycene and like the way that it's remembered in doll history, like belittles them a little bit. But also I feel like it's so hard to call these dolls underrated. Like, so many of them were released. They obviously did have popularity when they came out, and nowadays they're very comparable to me to Bratz in terms of how much people love these dolls and how much people absolutely ride or die for these dolls. They're not always quite as expensive as Bratz on the secondhand market, but they're another one where you can look at eBay listings and see just how much people love these dolls because you can see how much people are willing to pay for these dolls. So like, again, I do sort of understand what some people were saying about the way that Mycene is talked about and how it's like thought of. But when it comes down to just in terms of do people like this brand, there's no way I can call them underrated. And that's not like a slight. I think that they are really, really pretty dolls when they make like the best of the Mycene dolls. But yeah, I cannot call them underrated. These are so popular. This is another one that I feel like I could rant about for quite some time. The Nana Surprise minis. And when I say I could rant, it's just because I think Nana is such a weird brand. Like, they've done so many different things. They have been, to me, it feels like on the decline, or like people are very critical of them for so long. And yet they just kept living. Like, they just kept going, kept making dolls, kept doing different things to try to make this brand work. And I just think as a whole, Nana is so fascinating. But I agree with this person. They wrote, I'm not a massive fan of the full size dolls. I could never get away with them, but minis have a hold on my heart. The hair is so soft. The dolls are so cute in that scale. Even with limited articulation, I just think they're gorgeous. And I absolutely agree. Like, I don't have many Nana dolls that I've kept in my collection. I have sold off most of my full size Nananas, or like the tweens, not tweens, the teens that they came out with. I had like LOL in the brain for a second. I don't really know why. But the minis are so good outside of the fact that they're blind boxes. Like, I'm begging the toy industry to stop. I know that they won't because like they make money on blind boxes. Oh God, I'm so tired of blind boxes. So that's like the one negative. But I 100% agree that Nanana finally found their stride too late in the minis. Because I think at this point, they're like one of the more recent things that Nanana has done. And I don't know if Nanana's still going, okay? Like, I keep thinking they're gonna, like I said, keel over, die off, and then they just end up coming back. So maybe they'll come back still. But I feel like they haven't released anything new in a while. So the minis were some of the last things that have been released from Nanana. And they are so good. They are at a lower price point because they are smaller. They are like all plastic, limited articulation. But I agree that if something about it just works, like something about the scale, the proportions and everything for an Anana works so well on the mini scale. The hair is to die for. The like rubbery clothing is very, very fun to me. Like, I always think of Polly Pocket when I feel clothes like that. And I always think fondly when I feel clothes like that. Like, it's just a little bit of like a nostalgic feeling to me personally. I know other dolls have used that, but like that's what I think about. The minis are genuinely so fun and so good. And low key, I think that Nana would have been more popular, even if it was blind boxes, even if people weren't like thrilled about that. If that's how they had started, I feel like they would have done so much better. To be fair, I do think that Nana generally was really interesting. Like, the idea of like these fabric covered dolls is something new and different and fun. I think the price tag is what got a lot of people. It's at least what got me, like paying $20, $25 for a doll that has such limited articulation and everything. That was rough. But the minis, like, there's something about them. Like, I have to give credit to the original Ananas for being interesting because they were fabric and like they're fun and different. But the minis are genuinely on such another level of being so good, but I just think they came out too late. Like, I think that at that point, people are like either still going with Nanana, they're like, I'm willing to look at anything that Nanana comes out with. Like, I want this brand to like do something fun, or people have already given up. And I just think that they came out too late in Nanana's run to be super, super, super successful. But they are adorable, and I also agree that they are a little bit underrated. I think Nanana just doesn't necessarily have like the best reputation, maybe is a good word, and so I think maybe that's why. But the minis in particular are so good for no reason. Okay, we're gonna go back to my scene for a second. This one's more specific, and I think this is so interesting. So this person said the collector My Scene dolls. There was far too much hate for them. For one, I felt like they were the only Barbie signature dolls worth their price, along with Maeve Riley. But also, I think they capture the likenesses of the original dolls so nicely while still giving them a modern twist. And I have very complicated feelings on this because, like, I was one of the people hating on those collector My Scene dolls, and honestly, I stand by it, okay? Here's the thing. If you look at it in a vacuum, like all by themselves or like just comparing them to other Barbies, I do agree with what this person said in the sense that Barbie will put out absolute shit and charge an astronomical price for it. There's no nicer way to say that. There's no way to sugarcoat it. Like, that's just the reality of the situation. A lot of Barbie dolls are so overpriced for the quality of what you're getting. It's honestly disgusting. So when you look at it like that, the either $40 or $50 price tag, I can't quite remember, of the My Scene collector dolls isn't necessarily that bad, because while I definitely don't think they have the highest quality clothes, especially RIP, the Madison doll that I like the most, I feel like her butterfly top does not look great, but like the Barbie looks like she has decent quality clothes. And like for the number of pieces that you get and everything, compared to other Barbie dolls, they're really not that bad. But unfortunately, they're not in a vacuum. And so I think the problem comes in because even though they're not one-to-one reproductions, they are like very much referential to the original My Scenes. Like, I would call them like half reproductions, maybe is a good way to put it, because like they are supposed to be quite similar and like quite referential to those original dolls. And when you compare them then to other reproductions, it's just like, why does this cost this much? Because you have Monster High, who does the Creep productions, which that's like a separate conversation, how terrible those releases are, but they're $25. So like they're retailing for the same price as a normal doll, but they're reproductions and like they're all the same like stuff that they came with back in the day when they first came out. You have Bratz coming out with reproductions, which like the Bratz reproductions do range a little bit more in price. Some of them are better received, some of them worse received, some are more expensive, some are less expensive, but they all come with a decent amount of stuff. Like sometimes two outfits, like the Girls Night Out ones came with two outfits and a bunch of little accessories and stuff like that. And even though I definitely think you can make the argument they were a little too expensive when they came out, they were still either the same price or lower than the Mycene dolls. So then when you have the Mycene dolls, which like are better quality than some Barbie collector dolls, but are not that great of quality, and they also have such an unbelievably plain, boring box design for anyone who might want to keep these dolls in box. I think that's the problem, and I think that's why they were so poorly received and why I didn't really like the Mycene collector release, because when you compare them to other dolls in the same sort of category where it's like reproduction-esque dolls, they just do not hold up at all in my opinion. So like you could say they're underrated because people don't really like them, but I think people are sort of justified in not liking them. This was super interesting because I think this was honestly like maybe the most popular response that I got, and I didn't expect it at all. And that is the ILY Forever dolls that are like the fashion dolls from Disney that are like Disney bounding. So they're inspired by characters, but they're not the characters themselves. I got so many people being like, yeah, these are underrated. And again, I don't know if this is just the bias of the particular area of the doll community that I end up interacting with, but I feel like these are beloved dolls. Like, obviously, they're going to be more popular amongst people who like Disney. So, like, people who don't love Disney are not going to like them as much because they're Disney dolls. But within that like sector of collectors, I feel like so many people say such wonderful things about these dolls and really, really like them. So this is another one where you guys will have to let me know if I'm just crazy and like I just happen to be seeing weirdly positive stuff about this, because I genuinely could not believe how many people said these were underrated, because I feel like they're quite popular. So I personally, in my experience, wouldn't call them underrated, but I do think that they deserve the flowers they get. They're definitely like a fun take on a Disney doll, and a lot of them seem to be rather high quality in terms of their fashions and stuff. So like, power to them, give them their moment to shine, but I wouldn't call them underrated. And then we are going to end out the video by talking about Hair Dorables, Hair Amazing dolls. This person said particularly the bigger non-blind box dolls, so like the full-size like fashion dolls. Hair Dorables gave us so many amazing characters, but unfortunately Hair Amazing was short-lived and some of the characters never got a big doll. I do sort of agree. I was never a fan of the little ones. I did consider buying some of the bigger ones, never ended up doing it, but like I do think that they have really cute exaggerated faces, very, very interesting designs, and like lots of color and lots of interesting silhouettes and stuff like that. I think there's a lot to like about these dolls. If I recall correctly, though, I feel like I heard someone somewhere, or like maybe multiple people, talking about the quality being kind of lackluster on like the fabrics and stuff. If y'all have these dolls, you will definitely have to weigh in on that. But yeah, I think these are honestly really cute if you're going just from a design standpoint. And definitely I would consider them a little bit underrated. Like this person said, specifically not the little blind box dolls, but like the full size fashion dolls. I feel like they were genuinely really solid. Again, quality aside, because I don't know that for sure. But the designs are really fun and really, really unique. And like the faces aren't really any more exaggerated than some other doll brands that are very, very popular. So I would agree. I think these are a bit underrated and I do think they're really cute. But yes, guys, those are all the dolls that I wanted to talk about today. All the ones that you guys think are just a little bit underrated and deserve more love. This was super fun to film. I feel like I always really, really enjoy doing videos like this where I'm like sort of interacting with your comments and your like feedback and stuff like that, and sort of getting your opinions on things. It's just really interesting to see how different people view different things and like the experiences of different people. I just find it very fascinating and very interesting. So thank you to everyone who did respond with answers for this prompt that I gave you, because obviously I couldn't have made this video if none of you guys responded. And I'm definitely glad I was able to make it, because again, it was a super fun one. I do hope you guys also found this fun. Let me know what you think is like the most underrated doll that we talked about today. Let me know what you thought on my takes and all of that jazz like normal. So yeah, I do hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you have a lovely rest of your day or your night, or whatever it might be, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye guys.